There are changes I want to make in my life. How does change actually happen? I think the first thing that we have to think about when we think about how change actually happens is the nature of change. Change is constantly happening. Every particle in our world is literally in motion, vibrating, moving, and changing. Every weather system is passing through. You don't really notice, hi little birdie, am I near your nest? As we're talking about nature, it's happening all the time, but we can't see it. Like my baby nephew growing or my parents aging. Change is a constant happening, but it's often only with time that I can notice just how significant those changes are. The next thing to consider is our relationship with change. Despite change being ever present and despite change always happening, we crave sameness. We crave stability. We crave a sense of control and security through things staying the same, even though they never really stay the same. We crave the illusion of keeping things the same because the world is uncertain. The world is scary. And we as humans, I think, inherently feel vulnerable in this world. We come into this world incredibly vulnerable. I think we crave control because we inherently know we live in this vast mystery of a world that we can't control. We don't know what's even just above us in the stars. We don't know what happens when we die. We don't know where we come from. There's so much mystery, and in that mystery there's fear. There's the fear we won't be okay. And so I think this is necessary to talk about when we talk about change because one, the nature of change is that it's always happening, and two, our relationship with change is that we fear it. I think it's so common for us to live in this sense of survival. We're just getting by. Sometimes life can feel so unmanageable. So I think there's this very underlying sense of any form of change might be the very thing that leads to our demise. And I don't think this is like a conscious thing that we all experience. I think it's unconscious. Like I think we all consciously are like, yeah, I want to change. Yes, I want this to change. But unconsciously, we're terrified if anything changes in our life, it might be the final domino to knock it all over. It might be the one thing that knocks over our very fragile house of cards that is our life. And I think if we don't acknowledge the fact that we're afraid of change, then we consciously act like we want change, but unconsciously we're afraid of change. So we're kind of energetically contradicting ourselves. We're probably sabotaging ourselves. We're probably trying to keep ourselves in a nice, safe little box so that we survive, so that we make it one more day because we're primate monkeys that are fucking scared. We can't talk about how to make change happen without first like acknowledging change is fucking terrifying and the world we live in is constantly changing. So we live in this paradox. I don't think I'm gonna keep filming in the dark. I will continue this tomorrow. It's the next day. We can move on. Okay, so moving on. We have to practice calming the deep-seated fear of change we all have. We have to make the unconscious conscious. Will change actually kill us? Will change actually just ruin our lives? Consciously, we could probably say no, but unconsciously, we might be saying yes. Albert Einstein said, I think one of the most important questions facing humanity is, do we live in a friendly universe? If we live in a universe that's constantly changing, another way to frame this question might be, is change friendly? And I think that's a question we must all answer. Is change friendly? Is life, is the universe helping me evolve and grow, or is the universe trying to destroy me? And I don't think anybody's gonna come hand us a piece of paper that tells us the answer to that question. I think that's a decision we must make.
I agree.
And so we must decide, is change a friendly force or not? And I want to decide that life and the universe and this world I live in is a friendly force and that it wants me to grow, it wants me to evolve. Change is an extension of that force. And so change itself is friendly. And that shifts my relationship to change now. Now that I've made that decision, my only job is to practice trusting life. So how can we practice trusting life? Trusting change. For me, walking in nature helps me trust because I can look around and it kind of pops this illusion that I'm in control. I can look around and realize I had nothing to do with this, and that helps me trust that there's a force working here that's greater than me, and there seems to be a beautiful order synonymous with that force. Journaling helps me trust because journaling allows me to reflect on the change that's happening in my life, and I get to practice the thought exercises. How is this change a good thing? Training the mind to see my life in an empowering narrative. And then meditation helps me trust because meditation helps me get out of my anxious, busy mind and practice coming into my body, into the present moment, into my breath. So continuing with the question, how does change happen? Or how do we actually make positive changes in our life? And I was with a friend, and this was the friend, and I asked him this question that I was kind of mulling over. I was like, what do you think? How does change happen? And he said,
it usually starts
with an intention. This can be spoken or not spoken. Organically, if you're available to it and not locked in to how it's supposed to come about, life will bring you opportunities, whispers, nudges, internal impulses that might lead you toward whatever that shift is.
And I agree with him. Change happens when we intend for it to happen. When we make the decision like, okay, this is going to change. But then I told him to kind of play devil's advocate. I was like, I look at my entire life and the big changes that happened in my life, the biggest changes. And I don't look back on those big changes of my life and think I intended for those to happen. It was always kind of just an act of happening. And maybe those huge changes that shift our world and rock our world are kind of like in nature when a huge storm comes, a tsunami comes, or a huge earthquake. There's these things in nature that happen that we have no control over that shift the environment, the world, the landscape, the game we're playing, just shifts everything. There's wind. But I still think he was right.
Usually starts with an intention.
So where I stand right now is maybe it's a middle way between allowance and intention. Maybe change is the intersection of those two. Because we can't just like lay around on our couch all day and trust nature and say, nature knows what it's doing with my life and it's got this and I'm all good. And on the other side of the extreme, we can't also be going around life imposing our will, pretending like we're the creator of it all. So I think it has to be this middle way. Change is a dance between what we want and what wants to be. A plant might be my greatest teacher when it comes to change. This plant, whether I like it or not, is changing. It is growing or it's dying. And I get to choose, how am I supporting this plant towards its evolution? Am I supporting in its growth or am I allowing it to decay? I think we all want to grow and blossom and be a plant that's beautiful. So how do we do that? We do that by understanding what the plant needs. And that can be a trial and error process, but it really is like, it's a loving, caring process. It's not like I'm trying to fix the plant. It is, I'm trying to deeply understand what this unique plant requires for growth. And then I will tend to this plant every day. Another thing that this plant teaches me is that too much change too fast isn't productive. I cannot give this plant 3 months worth of water in a week to try to make up for lost time. I have to adopt the mindset of consistency over intensity. Change can be gentle. It's counterintuitive to the way culture makes change out to be, that you gotta fucking strap up your bootstraps and change your life immediately overnight. It's like, okay, sure, but true, sustainable, natural, organic growth comes from steady, consistent, and a slow, gentle tending every single day. Oh, man. And then practice patience. Patience, because I can't plant a seed and then dig up that seed every single day and see if it's growing and sprouting. Do the simple conditions that you know are supportive to the growth of the plant, and then practice patience. Give it time to grow. So I water this plant, I give it sunlight, but I'm not like checking on it every moment to make sure it's growing because I can't even see the growth that's happening. There's a process that I can't control here. And if I give it enough time, I look back and be like, wow, the plant is undeniably growing. So there's humility in taking a back seat to time doing its thing. But over time, I can look at this plant and be like, wow, you've grown, plant. You've done really good, and I'm really proud of you. And all I had to do is just take care of you. So yeah. There's a process of nature happening. So be patient, be gentle, be steady, be consistent. Over time, we'll look at the plant of our life and realize it's working, it's happening, it's always been happening, and it's undeniable.